Faith, when it truly lives within the human heart, is never silent. It stirs, it pulls, it calls a person towards something greater than themselves. It begins as a gentle conviction, a quiet certainty that there is purpose behind every breath and meaning behind every challenge. Faith looks at emptiness and sees fullness. It looks at a desert and sees rivers. It looks at a seed and envisions a forest. But that vision, however vivid, cannot fulfill itself. It must be met with movement. It must find a partner in action. Without that partnership, faith is like lightning trapped in a bottle, brilliant, powerful, but contained. Action gives faith direction. It channels energy into creation. It is not enough to say, I believe. The true expression of belief is in the steps we take toward what we believe. A person may say they have faith that a seed will grow, but until they place it in the earth, water it, and wait through sun and storm, their belief remains theory. The field of life does not reward those who only speak of planting. It rewards those whose hands bear the stain of soil. Faith moves mountains, yes, but not while we stand at a distance pointing to them. It moves mountains when we take the first swing of the shovel. Dr. David Yonggi Cho understood this. He built his entire life on the foundation that faith must be visible through action. He taught that faith is the language of the spirit, but action is the voice of the body. One speaks of what could be, the other brings it into being. Together, they make the impossible possible. Faith sets the direction, but action walks the road. Faith imagines the harvest, but action sows the seed. Faith hears the promise, action builds the altar. Too many people stop at inspiration. They are moved by vision, but paralyzed by fear. They wait for signs, for assurance, for someone else to confirm what they already know in their spirit. But faith is never meant to wait for proof. It creates the proof. When Abraham set out from his homeland, he had no map. When Peter stepped out of the boat, there was no guarantee that the water would hold him. They acted first, and the miracle followed. This is the divine pattern. Faith declares, action obeys, and then heaven responds. There are those who mistake inaction for patience. They call their delay waiting on God, when in truth God is waiting on them. The harvest is ready, but the workers are few, not because the field is barren, but because the faithful have stopped short of the labor. They have prayed, they have dreamed, but they have not done. Prayer opens the heavens, but hands open the earth. If faith is the breath of the Spirit, action is the heartbeat of life. One without the other cannot survive. Imagine the seed again. Buried in the soil, it is unseen. Days pass, rain falls, and still there is nothing to show for it. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing is happening. But deep beneath the surface, change is taking place. Roots are forming. Strength is gathering. Life is awakening. This is how faith works when joined with action. There is a time of hidden growth when your efforts seem fruitless, when your prayers feel unanswered. But the moment you act in faith, even if results are invisible, transformation has already begun. The unseen is working on your behalf. Dr. Cho often said that faith is like painting on the canvas of the future with the colors of the word and the brush of obedience. You must see it, speak it, and then act upon it. The greatest dreams of your heart will never grow while they remain in the mind. They need movement. They need risk. They need persistence. Faith is not afraid of failure because it understands that every setback is just another step toward fulfillment. Those who act in faith know that the outcome is not in their control, but in God's. Their responsibility is not to guarantee the harvest, but to sow the seed faithfully. Every person who has ever achieved something of worth has followed this same rhythm. They began with belief. Belief in a calling, in a dream, in a cause. And they turned that belief into movement. Faith whispers what could be action, answers, let it be. When the two unite, destiny takes shape. The great movements of the world were not born out of hesitation, but out of conviction expressed through action. It is not the size of your faith that matters, but the willingness to act upon it. Even the smallest seed, when planted, carries within it the potential for a forest. Faith grows stronger through action. The more you act, the deeper your conviction becomes. It is like exercising a muscle. The more it is used, the greater its strength. The first steps of faith are often trembling ones, but with each act of obedience, courage multiplies. Fear loses its grip and confidence begins to bloom. There is power in simply doing, taking that first step, making that first call, speaking that first word, trying again after failure. Each action says to the universe, I believe, louder than any prayer ever could. Faith also demands consistency. It is not enough to act once and then stop when the results do not come immediately. The harvest belongs to those who keep working even when the field looks empty. You may water the soil day after day and see no sprout, but those who persist will one day see green where once there was only brown. Action requires endurance. Faith requires patience. Together, they produce miracles that the impatient will never witness. The journey of faith is not free from struggle. In fact, true faith is proven in the fire of adversity. When obstacles rise, when people doubt you, when your own mind whispers that it cannot be done, those are the moments when faith either fades or flourishes. Every challenge is an invitation to deeper trust. When you choose to act in the face of difficulty, you declare that your faith is not built on circumstances but on conviction. Dr. Cho's message was never about blind optimism. It was about creative faith. A faith that imagines, speaks, and works. A faith that sees the invisible and lives as though it were already visible. Such faith does not wait for opportunities. It creates them. It builds churches out of tents, dreams out of dust, hope out of ashes. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. That kind of faith refuses to quit because it knows that the harvest is certain, even if the timing is uncertain. When faith leads and action follows, a divine synergy takes place. The impossible begins to shift. People who live by faith and act in courage become instruments of transformation. They build families that stand strong, communities that grow, and movements that outlive them. Every great achievement begins with someone who dared to believe and then dared to act. There is a seed of greatness in every heart, but only those who act in faith will ever see it bloom. The world does not change by wishes or words alone. It changes through deeds. Every act of love, every step of courage, every move of obedience plants another seed in the soil of destiny. And just as the farmer rejoices when the field turns gold beneath the sun, so too will the one who acts in faith rejoice when the harvest of their efforts begins to rise. Faith is the seed, action is the harvest. Between the two lies the journey of life itself, a journey of believing, doing, enduring, and finally reaping the reward of steadfast trust and persistent work. Faith continues to whisper even when everything else is silent. It speaks when the night feels endless, when the soil seems dry, when every attempt looks like failure. It tells you that the unseen is still working, that the promise is still alive. But to see that promise fulfilled, you must keep acting. You must keep sowing. Even when the harvest feels distant, every step of obedience, every choice made in trust, is another seed planted in the field of tomorrow. The harvest is not born from comfort. It is born from persistence. Action in faith is not always grand or visible. Sometimes it is as simple as forgiving when it hurts, loving when it's difficult, or trying again after disappointment. Faith-filled action is not about doing something spectacular. It's about doing something consistent. The smallest deed done in faith carries more power than the greatest intention left undone. Each day that you choose to act on what you believe, you are shaping the unseen future. You are aligning your will with divine purpose, turning possibility into reality. There will be moments when you feel weary, moments when your faith feels like a flickering candle in a storm. Yet even then, that light matters. Faith does not need to be large, it needs to be alive. Even a mustard seed of faith, when acted upon, can produce results far beyond its size. That small act of obedience today may be the beginning of a miracle you cannot yet imagine. You do not need to see the whole path, only the next step. Dr. David Yonggi Cho's life proved that faith's true strength is found in motion. He did not wait for conditions to be ideal before building. He acted while others hesitated. His story teaches us that divine vision only manifests when we dare to live it out. The act of doing is what unlocks the door to destiny. Faith calls forth courage, and courage gives birth to progress. So when the weight of doubt presses against you, move anyway. When fear whispers that you cannot act anyway, the universe bends toward those who move in faith. Every prayer must eventually put on work clothes. Every dream must find its way into labor. Because faith without action is a song never sung, but faith with action becomes a symphony that echoes through eternity. Faith is the seed, and action is the harvest. But between the two lies the courage to believe when nothing makes sense, and the strength to act when everything feels uncertain. The world is not changed by those who simply hope for better days, but by those who create them through faith-driven action. When you dare to step out, when you move before you see, when you work while others wait, that is when heaven begins to move on your behalf. So plant your faith boldly, water it with persistence, and never stop acting on what you believe. For the harvest always belongs to those who refuse to give up. The dream is already within you. Now let your actions make it real.